Hello, and welcome to Whiskey and Wool. My name is Shannon, and I am coming to you from northern New Jersey in the United States. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and listening to me talk on about wax poetically about whiskey and speak about my crafting, which is primarily knitting and spinning and, related things, everything in between those two things, occasionally festivals, though it's so sad. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about what it's been like for me with the coronavirus ramping up in the US. There's been so much hitting the news this week, and if you're a new viewer, you may not know, but I'm a university administrator and professor, and this past week was spring break for us, and I thought foolishly that I would get some rest in and stay home for a week. I ended up, because of everything going on about the virus, I ended up going into the office on Wednesday most of the day, and then yesterday, Friday, today is Saturday, March 14th. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time working from home on preparation for the upcoming weeks because we haven't closed. My campus has not closed, but we have asked students to not return to face-to-face classes. So our campus has about 21,000 students. All of the coursework has been moved online. I already teach fully online, so my classes were fine, but the preparation to get your coursework delivery online is really, especially the learning curve is very steep if you've never done it. So I really feel for the people that need to now do that. And it's not just my campus, but it sounds like it's many campuses across the nation have made this decision to teach fully online. Some campuses have closed all face-to-face things, meaning of course, events are canceled. Events are canceled on my campus. Anything that is a group bigger than 10, I think, is what they've decided. First, early in the week, it was about 40. And then it changed to 10 or less. So the reason we haven't closed is because we do want to continue instruction. We're halfway through our semester, so we want students to be able to successfully complete this semester and earn the credit that they paid for. We're just trying to abide by the gathering rules that the state of New Jersey has put together. Local schools have also closed, so the public schools, the K-12 system, has also closed pretty much across the state and across the region, the tri-state area region that I live in. We call it tri-state for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut because New Jersey and Connecticut end up being bedroom states with a lot of people commuting into the city. I live very close to New York City. It's about 20 miles to the east, very commutable from where I live, and a lot of people go into New York on a regular basis. So, and that it's pretty hard to avoid mass gatherings of people when you're trying to commute, because mostly we're a huge, huge, huge commuter region, where almost everyone is getting on a train or a bus to go into the city or to get to their jobs. I'm lucky that I can drive to work. So I think over the next few weeks, I'll be doing some work from home. I've switched all my student appointments to fully online or on the phone or using like a video conferencing tool to chat with students. It's been really, really, wow, just a lot to think about and a lot to consider, and just hoping everyone stays safe. Yeah, so it's been a lot to think about, and I'm sure you might be experiencing similar situations or scenarios in your region. I know I'm very much aware that I live in a very um, populated, heavily populated region of the nation, and we're going to feel the impact of the virus in a sharper increase than more rural areas will. Yeah, crazy. It's extraordinary times. It really is. I was thinking earlier yesterday that I really hope I don't get sick of the view outside my living room, because I'm going to be looking at it a lot more in the coming weeks. And I mean, I hope it means I also get to do a little more crafting. I mean, being home this week, I got to do quite a lot, and I have a lot to show you and a lot to talk with you about from a crafting perspective. If you want to commiserate on your coronavirus stories down in the comments, please go for it. I read every comment and reply back when, if I can. If it gets, so far it hasn't been too overwhelming. I don't tend to get more than 20 or 30 comments, so more like 12 or 15 comments. So please share your own stories if you'd like down below, and I feel for you. I'm going through similar scenarios here. And the other thing that I found, not that I want to frighten anybody, but it sounds like the virus is going to reach its peak infectious time period in June or July. So this is going to go on for a while. This is going to be a while. My campus is in it for the long haul. We are already scrambling to organize our summer sessions and summer events and things like that. So, and we may not really see the back end of this until the fall, until September or October. And before I go on to what you're really here for, which is the whiskey chat and the wool chat, if you're not understanding why it's important to not, I mean, the virus isn't deadly for most of us. It's not deadly. The death rate is fairly small so far. There's a lot of unknowns, which is why we're taking extra precautions. And also, we don't want to overwhelm our healthcare system. So if that happens, then we are forcing doctors and healthcare professionals to make decisions about who gets to live and who has to be, left to their best chances. So we don't want to do that, which is why we're tamping down direct contact with each other. That's the reason. And that's the reason for the extra precautions. It's not about, it's about keeping the death rate down overall for this virus, but also just to keep, if our healthcare worker population gets, if half of them end up out sick all at the same time, we will definitely have diminishing healthcare in our nation. So we just really don't want to do that. So yeah, that's the reason for the extra precautions. There's a lot of good stuff in the New York Times. They have made all their coronavirus coverage free for non-subscribers, so there's a lot of really great information out there. One thing about the New York Times, it's actually a very successful newspaper despite what our president says, and they also absolutely do investigative reporting where they make sure that what they're telling you is verified. So you may not see a story in the Times for a few hours until after it's been on other places in other news sources, but that's because they're making sure what they're telling you is accurate. So I highly recommend using them as a resource for information. So if you want to know more about the models that I'm talking about, they're all in the Times, in the New York Times. And again, coronavirus coverage completely free to non-subscribers. You don't even have to log on. You can just click in and see their updates and stuff about what's going on. So, yay. That was a good long intro. I'm now going to do a whiskey chat. I filmed this last night, yesterday evening, at the towards the end of the day, because I very much needed to relax and rest up. And so I'm going to send you into the past to watch the whiskey chat of. I think you'll enjoy. I'll tell you where to skip ahead if you're not interested. So hi, I'm here to do a little whiskey chat with you. So today I wanted to talk to you about this one right here. I believe I have the pronunciation correct. If I don't, I'm going to get some help from Brian Cox. It is called Lagavulin. Okay, now I'm going to have Brian tell us what it is. This is the 16-year. I think there are 4 or 5 different scotches in their different blends, or what's the word, types in their repertoire. So here's Brian Cox telling us about it.
Lagavulin.
Lagavulin. Lagavulin. He says it's very powerful.
Cognac of whiskeys.
The cognac of whiskeys. So this whiskey, I do have myself a wee dram right here. This is probably what is known as like the most masculine of whiskeys. It packs a punch. It is probably one of the smokiest whiskeys that is out in the market today. The distillery is located on the Isle of Islay. I will put a picture of the map of Scotland here. We've talked about Islay before when we talked about, I'm going to mispronounce this, Laphroaig. When I talked about that whiskey, that island is known for having a lot of peat in the flavors as well. But this particular one, and the peat is what makes the whiskey smoky. So this particular one is known for a very smoky punch. It is also known for its rich and intense flavors. So this is not your grandma's whiskey. Well, maybe it might be, but this isn't a soft, easy to drink whiskey. I like it. I believe it's an acquired taste. Because once you've had this, or like another whiskey that's got a lot of smoke, you're gonna find other whiskeys are a little teeny bit boring. You're gonna be wanting that smokiness. At least I really love smoky flavors. I love mezcal, as opposed to like a regular tequila. I really like smoky and bitter flavors too. So this is one of my favorites. So again, this is the 16-year. I'm going to do a little taste and tell you what I taste. I'm sure I'm going to get that smoke. Yes, okay, yeah. Lots of smoke up front. You really kind of get a smoky taste all the way through. There's also like a rich red fruity taste, like cherries, or like stewed cherries almost. And there's a little hint of sweetness that I would say could even be caramel. This 16-year is aged for 16 years in American oak sherry barrels. So we know with sherry we get a little bit of that fruity, dried fruity taste that comes along with it, with that aging process. So 16 years in the same barrel. This isn't a double. So let me tell you about, I don't know a lot about the distillery except that I do know it was established in 1816. You can actually see it on the bottle right here. I think you can read it. Yeah, so it says 1816. And then on the other side, it says Islay. Yeah. So that was when it was established. There was some competition of distilleries on that island, and some combining and stuff. So it's been in business for over 200 years, pretty continuously from what I can see. I had a hard time finding their website, so usually I go to the website to get the about story, but I did, do a little digging. Let me just see. Yeah, so it was founded by a farmer named John Johnston. And then a second distillery appeared, run by Archibald Campbell, which there is a Campbell whiskey as well. But then the two were united by a Glasgow trader. And in 1887, Peter Mackey arrived at the distillery, and that was where they developed the whiskey that I am enjoying today, the Lagavulin whiskey. There's a very pretty picture, if I could show it here, if I could show you without the glare of the distillery. It's very pretty. It's a little cut off there. Beautiful white building. I believe it's right on a coast, as many of them are, because that when they finish using the water in the process, they will, put it out to sea. So yeah, let me tell you what the experts say about the flavor. I'm going to my Flaviar website, .com website. Okay, so here's what they say. They say it is certainly one of the most robust and peaty Islay malts around. It is located on the Isle of Islay. I think it's Islay is the way you pronounce it. And where you can find miles of peat bog. that provides the raw material that greatly influences the flavors. It spends 16 years breathing the sea salt air, mainly in, this actually says, contrary to what I found on another website, this is saying they're European oak casks. Well, remember that American oak give you a buttery taste, and we're not really getting the buttery taste, so this is probably accurate. It is considered a classic, and this website makes a flavor spiral, which I hope you can see there. Smoky, peaty, sweet, vanilla, dried fruits, a little bit of spice, a little bit of salt, and sherry flavors in there. They say it is intensely concentrated flavor, massive peat smoke with ultra intense iodine. So that would be the salty, almost like a salty metallic taste. I really get like richness, like just first you're hit with the smoke and then you just get this richness, like you just bit into the richest, darkest chocolate cake or bar that you ever can bite into. Then it says fruity sherry notes and vanilla, a rich dried fruit sweetness of sherry character with clouds of smoke. Definitely taste the smoke the whole time. And then in the back of your mouth, you get an explosion of salty and peppery smoke. It has a huge, long, warming and peppery finish with a distinctive, appetizing sweetness. There's a little light spice at the end. Water will bring out more of the spicy taste. So again, if this is your first time to one of my whiskey chats, I always put a few droplets of water into my glass to open up the flavors. When you are doing an official tasting, it's often recommended to have a tiny sip, a little taste before you put water in, and then taste it after you put water in. Generally you can taste the difference. Like the water really takes the burn off of that deeply alcoholic taste is what I find, and you're able to taste the more nuanced flavors when you do that. So I always put a few sprinklings right in there. They make pipettes that you can use to do that if you want. I usually just use I use my fingers actually for myself. So I just take a little bit of water on my fingers and drop it in. Make sure your hands are clean. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little whiskey chat, and I encourage you to pick up a bottle of the Lagavulin Islay single malt 16 year. They have one that's red I want to try. It's got a reddish hue to it, so I'm curious to try that. Maybe my next purchase will be one of those. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. See you soon. Hey, welcome back. I'm drinking coffee right now because it is still pretty early on a Saturday morning. I'm getting beautiful morning sunlight streaming in from over there, which you can kind of see in the glow around Martha. This is Martha, my mannequin. She is modeling one of my whips, but before I talk about whips, I need to talk to you about finished objects. So I finished another Saucy Suri Bomber Jacket. I'm gonna just zip up the collar so you can see what happens. I just love this pattern so much. Oh, I published this pattern. So if you're interested in making your own Saucy Suri Bomber Jacket, you can find the pattern on Ravelry. And yeah, I hope many of you will enjoy making it. I know my testers had a lot of fun making it. I have one tester in California who is just been posting a lot of pictures, a lot of her pictures. I used her pictures in my pattern page on Ravelry. I am hoping to get some. Oh my gosh, I'm getting sweaty. I'm hoping to get some other media attention on the pattern. I'm going to do a couple giveaways, hopefully through other YouTube channels. I'm going to be sending out free patterns to people. My pattern, I know that a lot of designers do a promotional pattern launch, and I didn't do that with this because I priced it at the very low $6 a pattern. I thought about doing the staggered price points, like starting it up at 12 for people who could pay full price and then going, dropping it down, doing some incremental levels. But I just decided that I'm not really ready to do that. I don't get a lot of traffic on my patterns, which is fine. Like, I know I'm not really well known, and that's fine. But I did want to. I just figured $6 for this pattern is a price that I can easily swallow, and I think it's a very affordable price for patterns these days. When you've got folks like the Andrea Mowry selling her patterns for $10, $8, $10, $12, even $15. So I just figured $6 is a good promotional price. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I will be doing some giveaways through other through some promotional events coming up with other people. So yeah, this is my jacket. This has its own YouTube channel, a YouTube episode. So it's called the Saucy Suri Bomber Jacket, where I show you my original Saucy Suri jacket, which I can put some pictures in here of it. I'll also put a picture. I've already probably done it. Put a picture in here of this jacket in already. And yeah, it's a full separating zipper. It is hand stitched on. Very easy. I have a tutorial on how to stitch the zipper in. You do it all by hand with just a sewing needle. I show you how to do it very easily. And yeah, what else can I tell you? There's a lot of pictures in the pattern. The pattern is it's a lot of pages. It's like 12 pages, but there's a lot of images. I put a lot of images in. There's 4 video tutorials that are also on my channel that you can watch. I probably put the link into the video already. I'm getting like a little ahead of myself in the chat about my finished objects, but oh my goodness, it's such an easy knit too. The fabric, the yarn, wait a minute, let me show you. I think I have, yeah, here it is. Sitting right next to my yarn storage. This is the yarn that I used for this. This is a Melted Baby Suri by Qing Fibre. So that's the fiber, Qing Fibre. I think she's having a sale, an online sale, if you're interested in purchasing some Qing. But this is the Melted Baby Suri blend. I think other people just call it Baby Suri blends. So it's 65% alpaca, 25% superwash merino, and 10% silk. When I knit this, both samples, I didn't get any growth in the swatch or in the sweater itself. And I think that's probably pretty consistent. I mean, alpaca is known for growth, as is superwash, but I think the silk and maybe the blend and everything is keeping everything fairly stable, or maybe the way it's spun. It's a nice fuzzy textured blend, which makes it a great yarn for this sweater. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's a very high textured fuzzy blend. I think technically it's a fingering weight, but for me on the swatch or in the knitting, it knits up like a DK. So if you are not interested in using a Suri blend skein of yarn for this pattern, I would suggest any other DK. And then for your cuffs, your collar, the collar, cuffs, and waistband, see this really cool effect here? Those are all a fingering weight sock yarn. So in my case, this is what I have left. I've used about a half a skein. I think even the largest sizes don't need more than a full skein of fingering weight, though I'd have to double check the pattern to see for sure. But this is what I've used. I've used Fused Fiber Studio in the colorway Twilight. It's very pretty. This happened to be an MCN blend, but I think you could use any blend, like a 75-25 or 80-20 or even 100% superwash sock fingering weight would be fine. I wouldn't use singles because these are going to be, especially the cuffs, will be getting a lot of friction from wear. So a single ply will pill a lot, so I wouldn't recommend that. Yeah, I'm so happy with it. I am most likely going to make another one. I'm going to be gifting the original one, the pink one, to a very dear friend. So she's very knitworthy. So she'll be getting that one. So I'll be keeping this one and wearing it quite a lot. It's a really nice, especially because we're home so much now. I'm home so much. It's a really nice bed jacket, to just throw on over my pajamas in the morning and run downstairs to get my coffee. And, the way I'm a little warm. Even though it's a beautiful day, I think it's going to be in the 50s Fahrenheit, which I don't know if that is in Celsius. Is that 10 or 15, maybe? 12? Somewhere in there, maybe? But yeah, super, super happy with my new Saucy Suri Bomber Jacket. Okay, I have another finished object. I have finished my throw, made out of my own hand spun. It was my first hand spun project. I had bought, I think I said last time on my last episode, I thought I bought about 1.5 pounds. I actually bought 24 ounces. Is that 1.5 pounds? Yes, it's 1.5 pounds. It's exactly what I bought. And I thought I would make a sweater's quantity of the yarn, but once I spun it, I realized that the sparkle effect was too high. I don't know if you can see it very well there. You can't really see it, but it's got really high sparkle. Maybe no, okay. And I just thought I wouldn't like it as a sweater, too high sparkle. But I thought it would make a beautiful throw, and I'm so glad that's what I did because the yarn, because I was learning how to spin, the yarn went from being fairly fat, probably on the larger side of worsted, all the way down to about a DK weight. And maybe even some fingering in there towards the end because I was getting better at spinning. I was learning and I was getting progressively better. And this spin also took me about 6 months to complete from start to finish. So in between I was spinning other things and stuff like that. So I decided to make a throw and hold 2 strands together, which I don't know if you can really see too well in there. I'm going to try not to bump the microphone. I'm trying a new setup here. I have the microphone on the floor because I think it can capture my voice better when I turn my head and stuff. So it's on the floor in front of the lens. But yeah, so I did a cast on 90 stitches using 10 millimeter or US size 15 needles. And I did a 1x1 rib stitch, and I did 1x1 because I wanted it to be reversible. I know that garter stitch is also reversible, but I don't really like that look. It's a little more kind of kitschy look to me, so I wanted something that looked more like a traditional knit, but could be reversed. So that's what we've got here. The blanket ended up being about what is that? About 1.5 yards across, about 48 inches across. And then in length, it's the perfect size throw. In length, it's about 60 inches. And maybe a little less. It might have turned out to be a little less. But I am already using it on my couch. I know I had said that I thought it was going to match my couch too closely, but I love the way it looks. It's just a little bit deeper shade. It's coloring in around the same. The tone is pretty similar between it and my couch. And I'll put a picture in here so you can see what I'm talking about. I have another throw that I made in the same pattern in a 1x1. I did a marled effect, and it's got a lot of blues in it, and I have blue accents on the couch, blue accent pillows. So for the time being, I have both of the throws on my couch, and I use one and the cat uses the other because my cat often likes to cuddle. He's a little leery of new things, and this is too new for him. He hasn't quite gotten, comfortable with laying on it, but he loves the other one. If I just put that on my lap, it is a cat magnet, and he gets right on it. Or gets underneath it. He likes to get underneath it, like lay on my lap under the blanket. It's very cute, very, very cute. Makes it hard to knit, but it's very cute. I put pictures on my Instagram that you can check out of him cuddling with me under the blanket from various positions and poses. But yeah, I'm super happy to have something else off the needles. I think because last time I was chatting with you all, I had 6 whips. I'm down to 4. Am I down to 4? 1, 2, 3. Yes, I'm down to 4. Yeah. And that includes a new cast on. The yarn, the fiber, this is all I have left from the blanket. I just couldn't get another row out with this holding 2 strands together. But the fiber was from Blue Moon Alpaca. They are a farm it's a farm yarn. The colorway is called Happily Ever After. You can see the 1 pound sticker on there. And I think they're in Pennsylvania, but they have an Etsy shop, Blue Moon Alpaca on Etsy, alpacas on Etsy. But yeah, really, really, really pretty. I think this is a merino, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. I bought this right after I got my spinning wheel in June, because after I had ruined one bat and made very, very bulky yarn, and I realized that I needed more, so I had ordered. That was when I ordered this and started to play around with it and practice on it. So there you go. You've been hearing about that since June if you're a returning viewer, because I've been talking to you about that process all along. So very, very lengthy project, mostly because I stopped and started on it. I, put it aside. It was a very boring spin to do. I did about 7 skeins of it. It was very, very boring because once you, the fun thing for me about spinning is watching the colors develop and watching the yarn develop. And once, you can see it's very consistently the same. So there was that intrigue was solved in about 5 minutes, definitely within the first skein. So that was the primary reason why it took so long. So I had to be willing to just let myself daydream and what have you as I was working on it. So I know, don't touch your face, but you know what? I'm home, I'm alone. My bathroom's right over there. I can wash my hands before I go out and do anything. These are all my things, so it's cool. I can touch my face. Okay, more knitting. I have been making lots of progress. I so surprised myself. This is Martha is wearing the Stonecrop cardigan. You can see that I have worked a bit on one of the sleeves. Oh, I have some news about this. There's a couple things I want to tell you about it. I'm going to just put the camera up a bit, angle it up a bit so you can see it a little better, see the whole thing. So what do I want to tell you? One is I want to tell you about the pattern, and then I'll tell you about the yarn. One is that I didn't get gauge. I hardly ever get gauge on patterns. It's not surprising because A, I'm a loose knitter, and B, I'm not using the yarns that are exactly called for. I have a tutorial up about how to convert your yarn to any pattern. And I talk about how to do sizing too on patterns. So you're welcome to watch that. I'll put it I'll probably put it here, here in the video if I can remember. So I made some really nice progress. The nice thing about once you get past the this part where you split for the sleeves, the circumference gets a lot narrower and you can move a lot faster. And it's working the way that Andrea Mowry planned the pattern. This is, oh, by the way, did I tell you what this is? It's the Stonecrop Cardi by Andrea Mowry. I'll put a picture in here of her sweater so you can see what I'm talking about. This was a very popular sweater at Rhinebeck this past year. People did the pullover. She has a pullover version and a cardigan version. I am doing a cardigan. You can see my steek stitches right here. Those straight lines, that's where I'll be steeking. And also she has you in the pattern knit straight down through the rib and then you steek through the rib, but I didn't want to do that. I decided to do my bind off right away and then do the rib knit stitches. I did the same thing on the neck. So after I completed the body, I went back up to the top. I had done a provisional cast on for the neckline stitches instead of stitching all the way through using a rib stitch. I did a provisional cast on. I was concerned about the neck being too open and wide because if you look at Andrea's pattern, that's the way it looks. So I wanted to be able to modify the rib stitching so that it wouldn't be so wide. And I ended up doing that. Let's see if I can turn her around without banging the ceiling because she's right up against the ceiling here. I have like a slanted wall. All right, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but maybe I'll put a picture in up close so you can see what I did. But what I did, this section right here, this is the back neck short row shaping that she has you do that's written into the pattern. And then what I did with the rib stitch, I did a rib stitch, 1x1 rib stitch off the provisional cast on. And then about halfway up, about 4 or 5 rows in, I knit 2 stitches together from about, turn it back around, from here, from right about here on the shoulder, about an inch down into the front neck, all the way around to the other side. I knit 2 stitches together all the way across so that I would get a shrunken in neckband. And I'll put those will be in my project page notes if you're wanting to emulate that. I can show you I can talk about what I did. I actually think I probably could have done a little bit more, even like maybe a little bit higher of a rib stitch because there's still, like her neckline is right here. I don't know if you can see the seam, but her neckline's right there. Again, I'll put some pictures in. And it's still about an inch off of her neckline, but I think I'll be fine with that. If you wanted a closer neck, what you would do is just knit more of those rib rows. Yeah. So I am, oh my gosh, my yarn has completely been wrapped around because I've spun her. There we go. There. Not wrapped around anymore. So yeah, those are the 2 primary modifications that I did with the pattern. I also talked about, now the time to tell you about the yarn? Yeah, let me tell you about the yarn. So I talked about what I was using for the contrast yarn. So my yarn base, let me tell you about the base first because that's easy to talk about. This is my base yarn right here. It's this beautiful turquoise teal. That color that you're seeing right there on screen right now, that is accurate. It's not accurate up close. It sort of gets washed out. But this is non-superwash Highland wool by Uschitita. She calls it this yarn the minimalist. I haven't shopped her yarn lately, so I don't know if this is a base that she keeps in her shop all the time. I think it's something that she made starting last year for EYF, for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I bought it after EYF when she did her first shop update because I had one of those look back moments where I had seen her yarn at the festival, but I didn't purchase, so I had made the decision to purchase. Okay, my contrast color is what the pattern called for, which is Spincycle. I don't seem to not have the tag. I don't know why. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay, so I'm using Spincycle dyed in the wool. That is what the pattern calls for. Spincycle yarns. It's 100% American wool. It is superwash. This colorway is called Stay Out of the Forest. I know the camera's not... There we go. Stay Out of the Forest. It's considered a sport weight, but it knits perfectly well with the yarn I'm using. I mean, they both might be sport weight. They're very, very similar in weight. I had talked about mixing Stay Out of the Forest. This is what I have left of the body skein with what I had left of the colorway Truth Bomb to get enough yarn to knit this entire sweater. So you can see I didn't do any manipulation of the skein for the body, but let me just move her back. So you can see it starts with kind of a burnt orange color. It goes into a deep red color, and then it goes back to the burnt orange, and then from there it goes to a very sort of denim-y blue color. And then if I'd continued with that skein, I would have had this green, and then it went on to an orange color. Okay, here's what happened with the sleeve. I started to look at all of my skeins, and I realized that if I wanted my sleeves to match the body, I needed a red tone, and my Truth Bomb skeins didn't have any red in it. They had the brown, the blue, the green, they even have orange, but they didn't have red. So I started to think that perhaps I should order another skein of Stay Out of the Forest. So that's what I did. I rushed ordered another skein of Stay Out of the Forest. I was able to find a company that had it, a yarn shop that had it. I don't even remember who it was, but I just Googled Spincycle dyed in the wool Stay Out of the Forest and found it. I thought about buying in a D-stash, but I thought it would just be faster and more convenient to buy from a store. So that's what I did. The color that I got, so this is, here's the comparison. This is the new Stay Out of the Forest. It's very vivid compared to the one that I had, which, you know, that's the way it goes, right, with handmade, low quantity colors. But I was very keen to make sure that my sleeves matched pretty well to each other, especially, and to the body. Now, you're knitting in a smaller circumference, so the colors are going further. So right now, it started with the darkest red at the top, which matches the, I think, see, I think you can see it well there. It matches pretty well. So you can see that would be the line. Actually, no, wait, I lied. That's the line. That's the line right there. I think it matches pretty well. Less well as we're going down, so you can see that this is a lot more, this is brighter. And I'm getting into the oranges, but those oranges are not going to be nearly as subtle as these are as I get into these next two checkerboard patterns. It's going to be brighter, more keyed up. Probably when I get down to this checkerboard pattern, I'll be in those more subtle oranges. So it's not going to be an exact match, but I was determined that the sleeves would match each other, because that's what I started to figure out looking at my different pieces of the other Spincycle yarn I had, that I didn't have enough to make the sleeves match each other. So what I did when I got this skein of Spincycle, my new skein, was I made two balls. So this will be the sleeve on the other side where the reds and oranges match pretty well. This ball is bigger and has the greens and blues that this one doesn't have, but I don't even think I'm gonna get there. I'll be surprised, and if I do, I'll just work backwards and even it out. I do still also have this bit here, so if I get into the blues and greens on this skein, I can utilize this bit on the other sleeve. And further, I have this bit. So I think it'll be okay. It's really unknown to me, like how fast I'm going to go through the skein as I knit. The other thing I realized, and this is probably just because I've never done color work in a sleeve for the entire sleeve before, in the round. So knitting in the round, I knit, when I'm knitting two colors, what I do is I hold a strand in each color and then with the yarn underneath. So, oops, there we go. So I will knit like this with the knitting needles here in the center. My left hand, I have a tension problem with my left hand. It's much looser tension knitting in the round in a short circumference that is this type for the sleeve than it did here. Like, I don't have a tension problem when I'm knitting on a bigger in the round, but in this little circumference, I'm having a problem. Like the red yarns are definitely looser stitches. So I hope that in blocking that'll work itself out. I didn't talk to you about apparently Andrea went on this like tubular cast on, tubular cast off, bind off kick on some of her patterns, because I was reading, I was watching a couple other podcasts where they had done the Weekender sweater and it had a tubular cast on, and she went on this like little whatever. Anyway, I have never done tubular bind off before, and I don't think I ever will again, because I did tubular bind off on this sweater, and honestly, like, I don't notice, it doesn't look slick or special, or I don't love it, and it was a hell of a lot of work, because you end up having to hold your a row of stitches on one needle, a row of stitches on the other needle, and then you're using a third needle, and you're stitching one. You're doing like Kitchener stitch, essentially. Actually, I think that's exactly what you're doing. You're doing Kitchener stitch for the bind off, and I don't know. I wish I just did my regular, very stretchy bind off that I learned from Very Pink. I like that bind off, and as I was doing it, I was wearing a hand knit sweater, and I had the cuff where I had done my usual very stretchy bind off, and I was doing a side by side, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. What's so special about this? Like, okay, like, all right. I just don't really like it. I did a regular stretchy bind off on the neckline up here, which by now you've seen some close-ups of that. So let me move the camera back down so I can continue on with this episode and move on to something different. Is that too low? Maybe there. There we go. Yeah, so that is my Stonecrop Cardi. There you go. My goodness, this is going to be a long one. I guess that's kind of good, because if you're like me and you're working from home, I'm watching a lot more. Like, I'm kind of out of podcasts. Like, I've watched all my favorite podcasters' episodes, and I have nothing left to watch. So I've been actually watching a lot of. I love the beach and rain and sounds like that. So I've been watching a lot of these, like, what are they called? ASML, or just like sleep videos. Like, I just put them on for background noise, where it's like a scene. It's like 8 hours of watching the ocean come in on a beautiful location. Sometimes it's nighttime. They're really cool. I like them. And I've found a few that have rain. So it's like 8 hours of rain falling on a roof or something like that, or on leaves in the forest. It's really cool. Very relaxing, especially in these trying times where we're really testing our stress levels. Okay, not quite done with that coffee. Moving on. That is a whip that's gotten a lot of attention. I might have that done by next episode. Okay, maybe not. My other whip is another new design that I've been working on. This sweater is out for testing. This is the crewneck version of the Rye Layering Tee. I'll pop a picture of the Rye Layering Tee, the original, on screen here so you can see what it is. It is a rib knit, choose your own adventure, where you can either do a button Henley placket, or you can do a crew neck. You can do any sleeve length you want, of course. You can do any body length that you want, of course. And then you choose your own stitch. So I recommend a rib knit of some sort. This one here is a 2x1. I know you might be able to see it better in the gray, in the solid gray. It's a 2x1 stitch. See there? And I'm also doing color blocking with this particular one. So let's see, can you see well? Yeah, so the plan is to stitch it in this variegated green color down to about the waist. I'm almost there. I probably need to knit another inch or so. No, her waist is down here. There it is. It's down where this orange bar is. So I actually looks like I have to knit about 2 inches. I think I figured out that this section should be 8 inches. Once I get to that point, I'll be putting in another gray strip, and then I'll knit the rest of the body with the green, and then at the very end of the rib bottom, I'll put about a half inch, 4 rows or so of the gray again. And that'll be the similar striping pattern on the sleeves, I think. I'll have to see where I'm at with yarn yields by then. So that's another option you can do. You can color block or not. You can do a solid color. My first one was a solid color, and I just did a little bit of tipping on the sleeve and on the collar and on the placket and the bottom. It looks really cute. I love it. I wear it so much. I need to depill it. It's time to depill already. But for this one, I am using it's a sport weight pattern, but of course if you use heavyweight fingering, it should be okay. A couple of my testers are using sport weight. I have a group of testers I haven't heard a peep, so I guess everything's going good. Like the way I do my tests is that I have them reach out to me if they have any issues, and as I find out about stuff, I pump out a new version of the pattern, but it sounds like it's going very smoothly so far for mostly everybody. I am using, for this one, the Plucky Knitter in her Primo Sport base. Primo Sport. It's a superwash cashmere nylon, so MCN, it's got 20% cashmere in it. I actually don't really even feel that. It is a really soft yarn, a really soft cloth, but as I'm knitting it, I'm not going, wow, this cashmere though. It's nice. What I do really like about this yarn is the stitch definition. The stitch definition is crazy good. The colors that I'm using, in case you're wondering, the green is called Aunt Bootsie, which I think is part of her regular repertoire. Like, I've seen it since I bought this. I bought this at Vogue Knitting Live in 2019. And the gray is called Full Steam Ahead. It says that it's part of the summer palette. I don't know from when, though, because I purchased this in a D-stash on Ravelry. I bought 3 skeins of the green and 2 skeins of the gray. So far so good. Like, it's unknown to me like how the yield will be. Like, I know I have enough yarn to make an entire sweater, which is why I'm not really sure what I'll be doing with the sleeves yet. I'm thinking I'm probably gonna follow the striping that I have. That I've established in the body, but we'll see what happens, see how it goes. As I think that could be nice, because you'd end up with like a gray stripe around, like, so you'll have a little bit of a gray cap, then a green section, then a gray stripe around the elbow, then a green section, and then some gray. I don't know. I'll figure it out as I go. That's the beauty of it. Anyway, this is a lovely yarn to knit. I do really enjoy seeing the stitch definition. It's made me rethink a pattern that I had on my list of things that I wanted to make this year. I've been planning to make a sweater for one of my sons, and I know exactly what the pattern is, what pattern I want to use. I think I'm going to do, the pattern is actually written for DK, but I think I'm going to do a fingering weight yarn, or maybe I might use this yarn now that because it involves a little bit of cable work, so I like the stitch definition of this. The yarn that I had that I'd been thinking I would use for it, for his sweater, is a dark yarn, which I was thinking that I have it on hand, but I was thinking that the cables will be hard to see. So, and it's a beautiful yarn, but it may not be the best for a cabled sweater. So, got to think about that. His birthday's October, so I have a long while until his birthday, and a long time to sort of ponder. But I was checking out these stashes of Plucky Knitter online on Ravelry, and I saw quite a bunch of them, so of colors that I thought would be appropriate, because he loves green colors, green shades, but he also loves grays and blacks. So I saw plenty. But I just don't want to pull the trigger on it yet, because I need to clear my knitting of other things and just like get myself ready. So yeah, this pattern is currently testing. It will be, I didn't get testers for the upper size range. So if you're on the upper size range and you're interested in testing, please reach out to me, and you can take your time. No rush, because I'm self-publishing, but I expect that the pattern will be published, judging by the way the testers are going, I would say mid to end April, somewhere, yeah, probably mid-April, probably like around Easter time. This is such a wearable top, and I'm probably going to make its own episode too. I need to finish this one, the crew neck version. I do have 2 others planned, which I'll talk to you about when I get a little bit further on. I have a new cast on. I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you my new cast on. I have cast on the Nell sweater by Erie. She goes by Erie. I'm going to try to say her full name. Wait a minute. Erie Shimizu is her name. Her first name is Erie. This is the Nell sweater. It's a pullover. I thought long and hard about my different cast-ons, and I decided that I needed to do cast-ons that would be wearable, or that I would want to wear in the spring, because spring is coming. So I thought about maybe pushing out one more wintry knit, so I thought about doing the Paloma, which I think I talked about on my last episode, and I was watching the Grocery Girls, and Tracy of the Grocery Girls is making the Paloma, and I was like, oh, I should cast that on. It looks like such a cool knit. But I decided instead to put that aside and maybe cast that on sometime in the summer for next fall, and instead push through on a few of the spring knits that I have, because I was counting, and I think I have 4 different spring summer knits that I could work on, that I have like planned. I've got the yarn, I own the yarn already, I own the pattern, I just have to cast on. So I decided to go ahead and cast on the Nell sweater, which I'm sure I've put a picture on by now. And this is where I'm at. It's a top-down knit, and it has the little split neck opening. So I'm working on the top right now, knitting in the round. I'm doing the decreases, so I'm doing the, you could see these are all I put a little stitch marker for every decrease, because for my size, I'm doing 12 increases, and then you switch up the way you do the increases. So I wanted to just make sure, this is just an easy way to count without having to closely put on my reading glasses and closely examine the knit. So this way I don't have to worry about a stitch count or anything like that. So that's what I do. Oh my God, this yarn. I love, love, love this yarn. Is it not gorgeous? Like, this is going to be the most amazing spring summer sweater. Like, it's so beachy. Like, I just love it. This is, if you watched my Vogue Knitting Live 2020 recap, you'll recognize this. This is Cat Sandwich Fibers. It is I think it's Princess Bonnibel colorway. Do I have the... I have the yarn here. My backup right here. Princess Bonnibel, yeah, which I think that's a anime reference or a video game reference. I'm not sure which. But I bought it on her Trusty Base, which is 75 75-25. I don't love that base actually, but I love the yarn. I'm getting used to it. Like when I first started to knit this sweater, I was having a lot of splitting issues just because I think the yarns that I've been working with are not traditional sock yarns. So I just had to get in the mind frame of doing a sock yarn. And that's her hot pink label cat sandwich. If you're loving this yarn and it's not Sunday the 15th, she is having a shop update online, fully online. It's going to be so hard for me to resist buying a sweater's quantity of her yarn again because it's just, I love the way it knits up. Like these on the skein had big chunks of color. I'll post a picture on here if I have it. I think I do from when I did my Ravelry listing. So it basically had like three main chunks of color, like a pink, a bright blue, and the turquoisey like pool color. And you can see what happens. I'm not alternating skeins. It stripes really cutely. Like, and again, like I've been doing, I've been slowly increasing. So I did get a little bit of pooling in some sections, but I don't mind it for this. I mean, that's the biggest section I have of pooling right there. Not so bad though, it's pink, it's really pretty. You can also see this sweater, you do short row shaping in the front neck, so you can see like the triangle, see the pink triangle that is from the short row shaping? There's one on the other side too. It's funny, right? Yeah, so you do short row shaping to raise the raglan sides and then also the back neck. This pattern had this was another surprise. I don't know if you're going to see it well in this yarn, but see the texture on the neck there? Okay, you see the stitch pattern? It's very similar to the stitch pattern that I did on the other Erie sweater that I knit, the Achikochi, which I knit out of my hand spun and some beautiful yarn. Do I have it here? Some beautiful like gray Shetland blend yarn that I got when I was at Edinburgh Yarn Festival last March. Yeah, so it's this very similar, like textured, it creates an arrow, like a V shape with the yarn, you do like yarn overs or holding yarn in back or in front, depending on which direction you're knitting. And you end up with this beautiful, neat, that is completely lost with this beautiful speckled yarn, but I don't care. It was just fun. It was very interesting and fun. Like I'm definitely learning some new techniques, which is why I love to knit other people's patterns. So it's really cool. I love the way that blue. It's just so fun to watch the fabric develop with cat sandwich yarns, and the speckling in the solid portions is just so gorgeous and so beautiful. I really, really love her sense of color and what she's doing, what she does with her yarns. There is a small section. This is like sort of a peasant style sweater, and there's a small section on on each sleeve. On one sleeve, that would be funny. That has a colorwork, like a small colorwork section. And I'm getting very close to this area where I'm going to be adding in gathers, which will be fun to do. But anyway, my colorwork is going to be made out of these two cat sandwich fiber yarns. I'm going to use this as the ground, and this beautiful rose gold color will be the flowers. So I think this will look quite nice with my yarns. I think that's going to go really well together with my base color. And because I realized that having a high speckle for color work probably isn't a good idea. So that is my plan. She has you use the base color that you use, your body color, for the ground in the color work, and then use like a tonal color for the flowers. But I decided that I wanted to just go with two fairly solid. This one has a lot of speckles going on in it, but I don't really think that's going to matter much when it comes to the, and this is like a semi-solid when it comes to the color work. So I think that'll be fun. And I also realized that I don't really have the yardage that the pattern calls for. I'm a little short of yardage because it's a high yield pattern. I think because it's such a blousy pattern on the body, there's a lot of positive ease. so I think for me, it's my size, I'm knitting about a 10 inches of positive ease. So I also realized that besides these 2 half skeins, I have 2 more half skeins. So I could do like some color work around the bottom if I need to lengthen it. So I'm going to see how it goes. I very well may knit only a bit of the body and then go right to the sleeves just to get through the sleeves, and then I can figure out what I'll do with the rest of the body for the sweater. It's also very long, so I don't know if I'm going to make it that long either. So we'll see. Lots of things to think about, but this has been very fun. It's very easy knitting until you're doing those increases. Like, you have to just pay attention when you get to the increase row. But that's going to change very soon because I'm almost done with all the increases, and then it won't be long before I realize that, like, I'm always highly motivated to knit from the neck to where you split for the sleeves. And then a lot of times I put sweaters down when I get to the sleeve split and I don't work on them for a while, even though it's not this sweater. This isn't a good example, but most sweaters are fairly easy, just straight knitting, like just straight stockinette, kind of, meditative, mindless, boring, whatever your term is for it, knitting. I don't know why that is. Like, why? I mean, I enjoy that part. I don't find it boring. Sometimes it's boring, but I like to just sit and do stockinette stitch without, where I don't have to look at my hands and I don't have to think about it. It's like that's what I live for. I like that a lot. Sometimes I like to be thinking about it, and that's when this has been good knitting to do, because there's barely a row where there's a couple rest rows in between the color work sections, but generally you're doing something every row that you've got to pay attention to. So anyway, those are all my whips, all my knitting whips anyway. I am now going to move on to spinning. I've got quite a lot of spinning done as well. I'm going to show you this first one first because it has to do with some of my knitting. I finished this beautiful red yarn that I got from, I bought this so long ago too, and I've been spinning away on it, so I felt compelled to finish it up because this is destined to be the Rye Layering Tee, another button Henley placket version of the Rye Layering Tee, and I just thought I was just ready for it to get off the spinning wheel. So it's now done. I will cake these 3 skeins so you can see. I basically I bought some fiber from Countess Ablaze in the late summer, and I think I started it in August. I got the yarn or the fiber in August, and I started to I spun. I separated it by this. It had a pale turquoise and red, and I separated it by color, and then spun it together in such a way that I did a 2-ply where I had a blue bobbin, primarily blue bobbin, and a primarily red bobbin. You can really see the difference on this skein here, where I was taking the what was left of the skeins, and it was mostly red, and plying them together. So you can see like where that is all red, and then these other sections are a strand of red and a strand of blue. Of course, the blue wasn't purely blue, and the red wasn't purely red, but primarily those were the colors. Yeah, so I owe you a chat about red too, because a couple people have asked me to talk about that, but I'm not going to do it this episode, sorry. It's already so long that I don't want to, I'm going to have trouble processing such a big video, so I need to speed it up and get done here. Otherwise, it's going to take me hours and hours of processing time on this. Okay, so that was one spin. Another spin that I did, I went ahead at Imbolc. It's Imbolc. The January color. So it's a merino nylon silk, sari silk, Angelina, and Firestar, but primarily merino. It's really soft and squishy. The fiber was gorgeous. I'll put some pictures in here of what it looked like in the process of spinning. I really enjoyed the orange and the green parts in there. Like it looks, it's not, it's, I guess it's mostly black, but even from far away, you're getting a lot of those colors, which makes me so, so happy. I have zero plans for this. This is just going to go in the stash. And hopefully I will come up with something that I can utilize. I think it would be really nice color work, accent color or something like that. Because I only have one skein of it, so we'll see. We'll see. Okay, finishing up here. Okay, so the last spinning project that I want to talk to you about is my fiber advent calendar that I got from Le Petit Potions. I was getting, let me show you. If you watched my Vlogmas, you saw me open them daily, but if you didn't, no worries. Basically what I was getting was a little chunk of, this is actually a very plump one, but a little chunk of fiber every day that she had a mythical creatures theme, so this was the theme that went with this particular little bat, and it's BFL, Bamboo, and Angelina, and it is called Nessie for Loch Ness Monster. So every day I opened one of these for 24 days, so I ended up with 24 little chunks. They varied from anywhere from 10 to maybe 15 or 20 grams a piece, so that's a heck of a lot of fiber. Which so I decided that I would tackle this fiber project. And my thought was, when I was first opening them all, I was thinking, you know, it could be fun to make a sweater out of all of them, but I'm not sure that's what I'll do. But I did want to spin them all into, like combine them in a way to spin them into skeins of yarn. So I am going to put a clip in here where I sat down and laid them all out and divided them up, sort of sorted them by, I sorted the little bits of fiber by color. So I decided that I would ignore the content because they're all primarily wool. They're just different wool breeds, which is fine. Those can all hang together just fine. Many of them had either Angelina or Firestar. Some of them had nylon, some didn't. But I just decided to just ignore that piece and just go for the most cohesive colors that would go together. So I came up with 5 different collections of colors, and I already have spun and plied my first collections. I haven't skeined this up yet. This is just on my jumbo bobbin where I plied the yarn. Isn't it beautiful? I'll show you, I'll stick a picture in here of what the fiber looked like, what the different fiber chunks were. And what I did with the fiber, once I divided it into sections, you know, that would be a whole skein, I took each individual bag of fiber and divided them in half, and then from those halves what I did was I broke them into sections. So like this skein, I think I used, I'll tell you exactly what I used because I have them all right here. I used 5 different sections. There was one that was purple and green. There was one that was turquoise and gray. There was one that was, oh, this was so pretty. This was my favorite. This was pink and mint and yellow. This, like the creature that's in the center there. And then this one, which was peach. It was like peach and salmon. No, sorry, not salmon. Like a peach color, sage, and purple. I think I got those right. But yeah, and then there was, she had, the Petite Potions had included a surprise pack, and in the surprise pack there were these unlabeled chunks of wool. So there was an unlabeled chunk of wool that I think was Cheviot, the breed, and it was bright yellow. So I ended up with this yarn. I think you'll see it better when I skein it up. So if I skein it up ahead of getting this, editing this episode, I will show you what it looks like. I'll put a picture in of what it looks like. But it totally reminds me of the Cadbury eggs, chocolate eggs that are out right now for Easter. It's a very Eastery color. There's a little bit of sparkle in there, not a lot. One of the purpley colors had sparkle in it. But yeah, I really love it. It was so much fun. The one thing that I can say that was challenging about this spin was because I was working with a lot of different fibers. I was working with Cheviot. I think I'm saying that right. Hope I'm saying that right. Cheviot. Rambouillet Shetland BFL, Merino, and more Merino and BFL. Along with some glitz and stuff, were in those blends. So I did a combo spin. So after I had the 4 sections, the 4 tufts that I made out of for each bobbin, like the single plies that I was doing, I would take 2 or 3 tufts of the different colors at a time and pull from each of them. Like go across, work my way across, like doing what they call a combo spin. That was a little challenging with the different wool types. It was challenging to keep the thickness of the yarn consistent, so I ended up with a little bit of thick thin, which I think will be fine. In the knit, no one will know. I noticed it when I was plying, when I was working on the plying portion of this. Yeah, but I think it'll work out. What you're not seeing here, there's sections that are like a turquoise blue that you're not really seeing here in this bobbin because they're hidden. But yeah, it's a fun spin. So I'm looking forward to doing another bag. This I don't know if you could see, but this is like a primarily green grouping, and it would include the one I was greens and blues. I have another bag that is primarily blues and purples, so that'll be another one. I have another bag that is reds, like pinks, reds, and there's a little bit of blue, a little bit of contrast blue, and a little bit of yellow that'll pop in there. This will be a fun one. It's got a bright pink. And then last I have one that is blues and purples, and mostly purples, I'd say. Yeah. So yeah, those will be fun. I don't know what I'll do with them. I have no plans of anything. We'll see what happens. They might end up being, maybe I'll do some sort of gradient sweater. It was interesting because I guess since it was mythical creatures was her theme, a lot of what I was opening were in those blues and greens, that blue and green family, which I'm not upset about at all. I love blues and greens. Those are my favorite colors to wear. So I think I may end up with a pretty gradient. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure. Who knows? It's just fun. Something fun to spin. This bobbin, the quantity was about 100 grams. It actually was 96.2 grams of fleece. So I think they'll all end up being around about that. There was a final skein or a final bag or package that was a full 100 grams, I think, or 80 grams braid that we opened on the 25th. So I do have that as well. If I remember right, it's kind of a soft pastel colors. It's like soft pinks and greens, like kind of Christmassy. So yeah, so there's that as well. And I don't know, whatever, I'm just spinning for fun of it. But anyway, that is my episode for today and for this week. I hope you enjoy. I hope you stay safe and healthy, and I hope we all make it through this very unusual time of experiencing a pandemic. Something to tell the grandkids about, I guess. We'll see, right? We'll see. So take care and happy knitting, happy crafting, and I will see you next time. Bye.